Hello there, everybody. I'm Josh.
And I'm Blake.
Good. Hope you're having a good week so far. You're catching this on Monday. We're filming it on Friday here. Just want to go over some Q&A here with one of our seasoned veterans, Mr. Baxter. Veteran in a couple regards. Veteran in the industry, veteran in service, but whatever else. And so we're going to kind of go over a few pressing questions that we've picked up just through phone and email to help us all out, I guess, as a company. Maybe put our mind at ease, perhaps a little bit like that, and just correct some misinformation that may be out there. So one of the first things was a question I had, given your bandwidth of 40 years plus in the industry of, we're kind of in a state of a little bit of national turmoil and international turmoil and things like that. And as this is relating back to commodities, so what have we weathered before as a country or internationally that maybe mirrors a bit of what we're going on today? And how did you handle that when you were buying gas for TVA and so forth? What comes to mind?
Well, I mean, we've certainly had experiences with significant run-ups in the past, and a lot of them have been economic driven, like the 2008 commodities bubble that saw prices get extreme. But with the war in Ukraine, we're looking more at kind of a physical event. And the closest example I can come to is really going back to 2004 with Katrina. I mean, it was a horrendous storm. It damaged a significant amount of U.S. production because we were heavily invested in the Gulf of Mexico at that point. Also impacted a tremendous amount of consumption because Louisiana, with their chemical facilities, their fertilizer facilities, is one of the strongest areas of natural gas consumption. And initially there was a lot of hand-wringing. We saw prices escalate significantly because of that. But then as time passed and people were able to assess things better, the market calmed down. In fact, I had a friend that had bet me that gas prices would never, ever drop below $7. And of course, by mid-January, I had won that bet. I don't know how he would have ever won it, but I won it mid-January when prices came back because people finally realized that demand had been damaged, actually much more than supply. So we were actually in an oversupply situation. So, you have to take your time and evaluate what is really happening to the market. In this market right now, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of concern because a lot of us don't know where the Ukraine war will end. I'm kind of a proponent of the idea that escalation is not a question of if it'll occur, but when it'll occur, because Putin is going to get more desperate. Go Ukraine, by the way. The modern weapons and the modern tactics that the Ukrainians are using, I think the Russians have already lost. But no, I don't want to get too far off the point on energy.
Let's not do that. Well, I think a big factor of doing this, and for people watching this, is the concern of a panic or an overreaction. I mean, right now, if you're running a business or a school, and I know we're coming into the summer season, but for constant load clients, this is extremely, it could be perilous right now. I mean, we're talking pricing that is well over doubled what has been normal. How should people react to this right now?
Well, again, there's kind of the war, and then there's the economics. And quite frankly, I share the same view as a number of analysts that we're going to reach a point in the war, an inflection point in mid-May, where it either is going to escalate or it's going to turn into just a long slog. But in terms of the energy, we're limited. I mean, we have been shipping tremendous amounts of LNG. Most of it is actually long-term contracted to Asia, but price-wise, it's been getting resold, and a lot of the ships have turned and have headed to Europe. But we're still constrained. We have a few more trains coming on this year, so we'll be able to marginally increase production of LNG. Europe has the problem, especially the Germans, because they never had a backup plan, so they don't have regas facilities to actually receive the gas they'd like to get. So, and that's not going to change, but through this winter. So the amount of gas we're shipping is really the amount of gas we're going to ship, and it will change incrementally a little bit as a couple of more trains come online. But the gas being produced in the U.S. is predominantly going to stay in the U.S. And in fact, we should see more drilling. Now,
Let's talk about that real quickly here. Well, before we go into that question, so I think there was a misconception I've listened to is we're going to come to the rescue of Europe, we're going to liquefy gas, we're going to ship it over there and kind of solve a problem. The moral of the story is we cannot do that. We're booked out. There's more coming online, but we can't solve the problem, right?
Not this winter.
Not this winter.
Now, for example, they've just contracted or signed the contracts on construction of a new facility, a new LNG export facility. It's expected to come online in 2026. It's something I've said all along. These plants just don't pop up overnight. These plants are so complex that it takes up to 5 years to build one of these things.
Yeah.
So
let's shelve this, and before we go into the whole oil company thing, what fundamentally does the market look like right now? We're behind the 5-year average. We're behind last year. We just can't seem to get out of this gosh dang winter. Fundamentally as a country, how are we looking on natural gas?
Well, a lot of the drilling companies are still recovering from the COVID world, right? Yeah. Oil prices dropped negative for a while. Natural gas, if you look at the drilling rig counts, it bottomed out. And what we've seen over the last year is a steady increase in the number of drilling rigs, both oil and natural gas, returning to work. The only thing that's really constrained that at this point is the willingness of many U.S. companies to actually spend on drilling.
So we're going to include in this video and this email some links to some articles regarding this particular topic. So let me tell you the supply and demand view, and tell me if this is wrong. Hey, prices are high. We should be drilling. We're making buku bucks as a company. Investments in oil and gas companies are a great investment. Is that happening? Is that logical? And
it is happening, but it's not happening at the scale you would expect from these prices.
Why not?
Because a lot of companies are recapitalizing. They're paying down debt. They're doing share buybacks. They're fixing their balance sheets, if you will. If you actually listen to the interviews with these CEOs, they got hurt during COVID, and plus they had been a little bit reckless in their drilling previously. So now they're being much more disciplined. The market is wanting them to be much more disciplined. Of course, it's raking in profits. But I think the other point, especially listening to the CEOs, is they were like, great, it's $6.50 today, but gee, if I look at 3 years out, it's $3. And that's really not incenting me to really, go do a lot of drilling.
Yeah.
But then if you look at this week's jump, if you look at the jump in the curve this week, now that $3 is $4.50.
Yeah.
So it's becoming increasingly more attractive for them to really get serious about drilling, right? Because when I listen to these CEOs, they talk about capital, they talk about manpower, they talk about getting sand, they talk about getting steel pipe for the drill. But I haven't heard a single one. Well, I'll take that back. There was a guy that has 30 employees that was talking about regulation, but none of the major CEOs are saying anything about leases or about regulations.
So let me ask you this question, back to fundamentals. So you said rig counts are going up. Production is going to be going up. Let's assume we have a normal summer, and Lord only knows, I got to put that in air quotes because what is normal anymore? We got LNG booked out. Do we have the capacity, do we have the wherewithal to fill our inventory for next winter, meet our demand, and continue this LNG at this level?
The answer is yes. Now, this got to be the discussion even going into last winter. Because of COVID, because of slack demand, they actually were able to get storage filled to a new record level of over 4 TCF. So, there's become kind of an expectation that, gee, if we don't get the 4 TCF, somehow we're broke.
Yeah.
But as we just saw, we got to 3.5, almost 3.6 before this winter.
Yeah.
And we're exiting, we are below the 5-year, but in 2014, we pulled down to 700. We're twice that right now.
Yeah.
So, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but it's also part of the narrative. Right now, there's a narrative that there could be a crisis in energy, but it's not going to come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, these kind of narratives can drive the market for a while, just like it drove after Katrina. That, oh my God, we're short gas, we lost the whole Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
And the byword back then was patience. Now,
okay.
now I'm not saying that gas in 2024 is going to go to $2.50 again.
Right.
That may not happen. It may not happen, if this war is still going on at that point. But, we got to be careful about panicking when we look at these energy prices right now.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up with this question. And again, these are, people are watching this. Blake, you and I just put out a budget for a client that'll go unnamed here. But I mean, if we look 2 years back to what we just sent them, I mean, I want to say it's about 80% higher. And, we're sitting here looking at prices that are north of $650 for next winter. I mean, you got folks that are superintendents running schools knowing that their budget is being burst through right now, potentially if this continues forward. You got facilities we work with. So to summarize in brief, what's the counsel right now? As we step into RFP season, we're stepping into hopefully summer at some point. What's the counsel given everything going on?
Well, I mean, you've really kind of asked two questions. I mean, one is about the RFP, and the RFP is about basis.
Yep.
So it's not about commodity or supply. Now, as supply prices go up, basis prices tends to inch up. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is that basis prices historically have increased throughout the year because capacity gets bought up throughout the year. Regardless of where the gas price is going to be, people need that firm capacity to make deliveries for next winter. So it's going to get bought. The price may be 10 cents higher or 20 cents higher than it was in the prior year. But if you decide to wait on basis, you decide to wait on capacity, you may end up with nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, you really can't wait on basis. You can wait on price because, a lot of things can impact the gas price prior to the gas price settling, right? Because December gas price isn't going to settle till 3 business days prior at the end of November.
Right.
So, but capacity is a whole nother question.
Yeah. So basis,
if you need
RFPs,
capacity, you need to buy it.
But if you're a business owner, you're a school administrator right now, and you you see what's going on and you're watching the weeklies or this, what's your reaction to it? Put yourself in their shoes. Patience? Is this Katrina again?
It's almost always bad policy to chase price.
There you go.
And quite frankly, I don't think the Ukrainian war can sustain, because at the rate they're chewing up personnel, at the rate that they're firing munitions, I think the Russians got a big push coming, but I think the Russians are going to fail, and then we have the next inflection point. What are they going to do? That they don't have the manpower, they're not going to have the weapons, but and that's what kind of keeps me up at night.
So as always, if there's any questions on this, feel free to reach out. Blake, I'd say go to Blake first on this. You can give me a call, obviously, as well. Happy to answer any questions, whether budgetary or just thoughts right now that are going on in your head with everything that's happening. So that's all I've got. On behalf of myself and Blake and our company here, if you got any questions, reach out. We'll talk to you later.